Shortly afterwards he left by the front way. And then they really did see quite a lot of him, even his knees. No, he won't speak into the microphone.
Throughout world history and even present day, conflicts can be found in every cornerstone of the world. Some conflicts inflict violence while others are peaceful. Some conflicts are unnecessary while some drive the world forward. However, all conflicts lead to triumph, but also tragedy as well. India, a rising global power, was once founded upon such conflict. This event is known as the Indian Partition. Historians today regard the partition of India as one of the major conflicts that shaped our modern world. The partition of India was a huge triumph for the regional peoples as it allowed their independence from the oppressive British. However, often overlooked, the partition of India also led to many tragedies. It displaced millions from their homes, led to a massive refugee crisis, created large-scale violence and tensions that still last today. On one side of the world, World War II has just ended. The Allied and Axis powers are negotiating a treaty and Germany will return to the shadows. At around the same time, in the Indian subcontinent, the Indian independence movement is raging on like never before. The Indian National Congress, All India Muslim League, and Gandhi are continuing peaceful protests. While India may have been mostly united in fighting against the British Raj, Hindus and Muslims had been pitted against each other long before. 1946. Upon the conclusion of World War II in April, the British cabinet mission arrives in New Delhi. Leaders of the Indian National Congress initiate discussions with the mission of the future of the independence movement. However, negotiations over an interim government fail. Regardless, the Viceroy establishes it, and clashes ensue throughout India, from Ahmedabad to Bombay, primarily catalyzed by the Muslim League. February 1947, with the resentment of the Muslim League growing, British Prime Minister Clement Attlee formally declares that India will be granted independence not later than June 1948. Nonetheless, riots continue to be pervasive, especially throughout Lahore and Gurgaon. On June 3, 1947, the plan to partition the subcontinent is agreed and made public. At 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time, the people of British India, the unified India of a homogeneous Hindu and Muslim population, are informed of an event that would change the history of the world. In the tense studio in Delhi, 4 statesmen speak one after the other. First, the British Viceroy Mountbatten, then the Congress Party leader and future Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, followed by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the Muslim League leader and first Prime Minister, Governor-General of Pakistan in waiting, and finally, Baldev Singh, representative of the Sikhs, a religious group in the state of Punjab. The people of India are informed that they will be attaining independence, but the empire would be divided into 2 new nation states, India and Pakistan. This plan, known as the Mountbatten Plan, changed the fate of India. Although Pakistan itself was not mentioned in the plan, 2 dominions would be established by August 15, 1947, Independence Day. The plan set forth a process of breaking up the kingdoms of Bengal, Punjab, and Sindh, all which were to be split into Indian and Pakistani administered states. Within British India, the border between India and Pakistan, the Radcliffe Line, was determined by a British government commissioned report prepared under the chairmanship of a London barrister, Sir Cyril Radcliffe. Pakistan came into being with 2 non-contiguous enclaves, East Pakistan, today Bangladesh, and West Pakistan, separated geographically by India. India was formed out of the majority Hindu regions of British India and Pakistan from the majority Muslim areas. Each side presented its claim through counsel with no liberty to bargain. The judges, too, had no mandate to compromise, and on all major issues, they, quote, divided two and two, leaving Sir Cyril Radcliffe the invidious task of making actual decisions, quote. The partition triggered in a colossal wave of migration. Millions of people moved to what they hoped would be safer territory, with Muslims heading towards Pakistan and Hindus and Sikhs heading in the direction of India. As many as 14 to 16 million people may have been eventually displaced, traveling on foot, in bullock carts and by train. 15 million refugees poured across the borders to regions completely foreign to them, because their identities were rooted in the geographical home of their ancestors, not their religious affiliations alone. Estimates of the death toll post-partition range from 200,000 to 2 million. Many were killed by members of other communities and sometimes their own families, as well as by the contagious diseases which swept through refugee camps. Women were often targeted as symbols of community honor, with up to 100,000 raped or abducted. Many years after partition, the two nations are still trying to heal the wounds left behind. The two countries began their independence with ruined economies and lands without an established, experienced system of government. They lost many of their most dynamic leaders such as Gandhi and Jinnah soon after partition. Gandhi was assassinated in January 1948 by a disgruntled Hindu nationalist who blamed Gandhi of being too supportive after the partition, after declaring his decision to move permanently to Karachi in Pakistan. Jinnah, suffering from tuberculosis, retired to Quetta in the province of Baluchistan, thus removing him from leader. India and Pakistan have been to war multiple times since the partition, and they are still deadlocked over the issue of possession of Kashmir. Recently, tensions have escalated in the present day with fighting over Kashmir.
As a kid, I remember the 1971 war between India and Pakistan. I was living in Mumbai. One evening, the anti-aircraft gun shells were filling up the sky with the blue, red, yellow colors, and nobody had any clue as to what is happening because there was no TV. The news were very limited, and people were just out watching the sky. Next day, we found out from the newspaper that many people had lost their eyesight because of the falling shrapnels from the anti-aircraft gun. It was very nightmare time for me. Basically, we were not allowed to light the houses. We have to cover windows with cardboard so the light cannot seep out of the window. And also in the school, the sirens will go on anytime, and we have to duck under the benches because everybody will tell us to, go down in the benches.
While the partition resulted in a triumph of independence for both regions, tragedies occurred and have had negative ramifications that still last today. In the end, it is clear that even though most of the public view the partition of India as a major triumph against oppressive regime, it can also be seen as a tragedy due to the poor way it was executed. It has displaced nearly 14 million people from their native lands, created a massive refugee crisis, escalated violence, and enabled an atmosphere of suspicion and hostility that plagues the relationship between the countries today. With the events that unfolded, one conclusion can be made. The world needs to do a better job of promoting peace and prosperity to those who are disenfranchised and don't have the power to express their voice. With the recent tensions between India and Pakistan, it is important that future generations become aware of the dark history between the two countries and keep it behind them.